Oh. Aloha, everybody. Man, I'm excited to get here. Uh, man, so a couple of things happened over the weekend that just eh, started Friday. Got to go with this, right? Always my stories over the weekend. It's one of those weekends where I get home or get to stay home, and I deliberately scheduled myself so I was off this week. I was supposed to be in Richmond, Virginia next week, and then Mark twisted my arm and he told me he'd take it, so I didn't have to go out. I was like, great, I don't want to travel west to east, so Mark will be in Richmond and all that. So I had this weekend. Had this weekend that man, I was just going to get. I got my third book all written. We was just getting it all formatted and all that. I thought this will be fantastic. Saturday, Sunday, be able to put that together. Then I can start on my fourth book. And I'm looking, doing that dopamine scroll on TikTok, and one of this, the an ad comes up with paint colors for your bedroom, right? Calming paint colors and da 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 da. Well, about 6, 8 months ago. No, not even that. Probably 4 or 5 months ago, my wife and I had this really wild idea that we were going to go bold in our bedroom, and we did a dark taupe ceiling. We've got a coffered ceiling that goes up. We did a dark taupe up there, and then almost a brick, little darker, but brick red and full saturated paint. I mean, we did trims, everything, all doors, everything, all in this red. It was so cool. We had this great wall mural up, and then it wasn't so great. It was just one of those, right? It was like, this is cool. Yeah, and then it wasn't. So I'm looking at this, and I leaned over to my wife. I said, look at this picture right here. It's called Swiss coffee or something like that. So really light, right? If you think about coffee with the Swiss mocha type. She went, oh man, that would be amazing. We can do that. I was like, okay. Yeah, that was one of the longest damn jobs I have done over the weekend because I had to do 2 coats of kills over that red and then 2 coats of paint over the top of that. But of course, hey, it's all part of the game, right? It's like, oh, what job can I do now? Because I'm bored. Instead of having the weekend off. No. Anyway, so why I bring that whole story up is because this week I wanted to talk to you guys about uh, how that we stay how you stay focused during setbacks or how we create our own setbacks, right? So what I find really interesting is that wait, I got to time out. I forgot to throw this part of my story in. Had a really cool opportunity right in the middle of painting and everything else that took me about, I don't know, half hour or so. I drove out to it was a grocery store parking lot, and I met up with Tony. And it was really cool. Tony came in from a different city, drove in, and I've got a guitar that I was given to his son. And so I gave that to Tony, and then Tony blessed me with a really cool book, and I'll share it with you guys after I get into it and stuff. Tony, I just barely cracked it. It's called the Puppet Master's Bible, and so it's on communications and different things. So, and then the blessing came is that I got volume 2 of his poetry. I already own volume 1 of his poetry, and then I realized, or he told me he's got 3 volumes. So really cool. So thank you, Tony. I so appreciate that, brother. It was cool. Got to meet his girlfriend too. So now into the story. So in the setbacks, right? Because a lot of times we look at things, what did we do wrong? Right? Because setbacks can hit us, and some are small, some are big, right? Some change the entire direction we're heading. A season might be a financial setback. It might be a relationship, a business, health. And the one thing that I've always looked at prior to understanding things of the systems is it was always, what did I do wrong? Now, not always was I in fault, but what did I do wrong? I remember one business I had, I think I shared with it a couple of weeks, that drove down to pick up the check, and it was a little strip mall office, and the door was chained and the office was cleared out. I didn't get paid. My people didn't get paid, all that kind of stuff. And so it was a business setback. And I kept thinking, what did I do wrong? Well, the answer was I didn't do anything wrong, right? It was that business that made that decision. 1996, my divorce finalizes. And part during that time, question of what did I do wrong? Well, yeah, there was some things I did wrong in that, but it wasn't 100% mine. I'll own what I did, right? And then health issues, different things that we do that causes things, right? My father-in-law, 12 years old, came over from Holland, and man, they just started smoking early in Holland and in different parts of Europe, right? And so he smoked forever. And it was probably 18 years now or so. He stopped. He said, "Yeah, I'm done." But then had open heart surgery. And when they go in to get the veins out of the leg, right, for the bypassing stuff, they couldn't find healthy enough veins because of all of the years of his smoking. Now, that's how it turned out for him. But it was the operating system, right? It was the operating system. He grew up in a culture that, fantastic, that's just the way. And so it just became that part of him and stayed part of him, right? Some people have, uh, my brother, my middle brother who passed away, he was, before they even knew what gluten-free diets and all that kind of stuff were, um, I mean, it was pretty much what was eating him alive inside, and we never knew that because it just wasn't known. And he had his pancreas removed. He had all but 2 feet of intestine removed. He had so many, which was what led him into the opioid downfall of the painkillers and stuff. But it was the operating system. It was how he operated. Had he known that eating gluten was destroying him internally, then he would have been able to make a choice, right? Business. We look at things that maybe we've wanted to start a business, and every time we've started it, something has gone different. Something has changed, that the economy's changed, the administrative has changed, the business I'm in changes. I remember years back there was a guy who sold DVDs. It was like how to learn PC, how to learn, and he would sell those. And you guys probably saw it. Those of you that are my age saw his infomercials out there a lot. It was like Dr. PC or something like that, if I remember right. And he just sold a monthly subscription to getting these DVDs, um, instructional DVDs on Excel, on Word, on all of that. And so, we never had the internal operating system in our computers that allowed us to learn from all of that. And so he sold that, and I asked him a question: how long do you keep a membership? And he said, I find that at 2.5 to 3 months, I lose people. So they start dropping off. So that's why he was consistently on the TV and late night promoting this membership, because he knew the life cycle was 3 months. So every month he had to have somebody new in there, so it kept that cycle moving forward. That was the operating system. That's how it pulled together, right? The I used to think back that successful people never have setbacks. I used to look at people and think, man, life has been so good for them. They never had setbacks. What I've come to understand is they learned how to navigate those setbacks, because setbacks happen. Setbacks happen. And I grew up with a gentleman last name Daw, D-A-W. He started a small commercial. I'm going to butcher what he did, but started a small commercial drywalling framing business that then exploded into now they produce. The company does all of the clean rooms where they make all the microchips and all that kind of stuff. It has to be dust free, and so he moved into. In fact, his oldest son Terry, when he invented the paint that did all of that, made so much money on it, he just retired and went to Hawaii and just has disappeared enjoying Hawaiian life. But I asked that gentleman, I asked Mr. Daw. He was one real close to being a billionaire at that time. And I sat down with him and I said, "You never had setbacks?" He goes, "Oh, young man, you have no idea." He goes, "One of my biggest setbacks was a $60 million setback. We had a job, we were right in the middle of it, and everything shut down. We lost 60 million." And I said, "How did you get through that?" He goes, "You do. You just learn how to operate." Because I was based, it was his words, I always based things on I've known how to do it before, so do it again. So do it again. So off of that $60 million loss, he became close to a billionaire. And I always thought about how do you pick up, how do you do all of those things until I started really going down through the the direction of I am so grateful that happened. And as soon as I started taking that on, that I am grateful that I had to go through that. I am grateful that I lost. I am grateful that I had the setback. I am grateful that that was a dead end. I am grateful that somebody slapped me silly and woke me up. I'm grateful. And what that taught me, and this was many, many years ago, I think it was the '08 crash, um, that what it taught me was external things are not what drives you. It's the internal things that create and make you. And when you buy into the external, then you lose everything that is about you. Because what you're trying to do is be that person that somebody else is making up for you, right? It's the the whole thing is where I've got all these stories that are bouncing around in my head. I thought I had it organized before I got on. Then Mark asked me a couple of questions, and I got so sidetracked before I got on. Right? There's this story here. A lighthouse never gets distracted by the storm. Its purpose is to shine the light to guide those in the water that, hey, you got land coming close, pay attention, here's a dock, come in for safety, right? It isn't there to stop the storm. The lighthouse is there to guide and exist because the storms are going to be there and remain steady, right? That's you can't control all the finances. You can't control everybody you talk to. You can't control the economy. You can't control every decision that's made by somebody else, right? I'm heading for Boston in a couple of weeks because of a wedding. I can't control what's going on out there. Mark and I are in air all the time. We can't control when the weather says, no, you're not going. And then we always look at Atlanta going, oh God, I don't want to connect in Atlanta because if there's any bad weather, we are absolutely ground stopped. And then I'm not getting home until 2 in the morning or even the next day. But I can't control any of that. What I can control is what? Me. Me. So write down this. What is one storm? What is one storm that might be happening in your life right now? Big, major, hurricane level, or simply a rainstorm. But what is one storm happening in your life right now where you're trying to control the conditions of the storm? You're trying to control where that storm's going versus understanding how to be the lighthouse and persevering through that storm. Just one, right? Just one, because what you don't want is that event to be your identity, right? Man, maybe it's a big one. Maybe it's a divorce, but you don't want the divorce to become the identity. I'm not worthy of being loved. That's not it. That's not it. Maybe it's the job. Maybe you just got fired. Maybe you were passed over on a promotion, right? We don't want that to be the identity. Well, how come they got promoted? Right? I've had this conversation with my wife several times that I've helped 3 companies build their monster business. And I always have asked the question, well, if I'm building the business, why didn't somebody support me? Why didn't somebody back me financially? Because I'm the one that wrote all the content for those companies anyway. And my wife, God bless her, just the most amazing person, is, yeah, and look where you are right now. You don't have the headaches. You don't have the merchant accounts. You don't have all of that. They have to have issues that things get shut down. You don't have the AG climbing up your nose. You don't have the FTC lawsuits. You don't have any of that. You don't have, yeah, God, good point. Good point. And yet you've been able to build your business, and yet you've been able to put a nice bank account. And yet, yeah, good point. I was not meant to be that lighthouse. I was meant to be my lighthouse. Right. And so when you start looking at it, because the decision comes as we start pulling everything on the outside versus creating a better condition on the inside. Right. So setbacks need to be looked at as it's just a growing pain. And I hated that when my parents always said that. Oh, it's a learning experience, just growing pains. Yeah, but you're not the one hurting right now. Right? Not understanding that my parents had to go through their own growing pains and all that kind of stuff, right? But I started looking at it a little differently. I started looking at it going, what is a lesson? What is the lesson I need to learn? What do I do? I don't want to say better. What do I do differently this time? How do I protect myself differently? How do I position myself differently? Right? It's like reading a book, right? Tony and I having that conversation. It's like reading a book, and then halfway through, the main character experiences his biggest setback, right? Mark's wife, Jody, she would get this better than anybody, right? Because she's got, I don't know how many books, author out there that she's got, right? The entire story, everything falls apart for that main character. And so, do you stop reading the story? Or do you become intrigued to see how that character is going to get through this? What's the next piece? What that I think that's the biggest dopamine in binge watching. Well, what's next episode? Oh, I'm just going to sit here and watch the next episode to see how that ended or to see how they get through that. And then 4 hours later, we watched a season. We haven't got anything else done. But hey, right? I think that's the dopamine. We didn't stop. We didn't stop. We don't stop in the middle of a book because that character fell apart. That character fell apart because that's the way the author was writing that character's life. And that author is then going to take the rest of it and pull through, right? Because if that particular character is the hero, then the hero is going to make it to the end. Now, there may be a demise at the end of the book, which would be the shocker for us and all that kind of stuff, but the hero is going to get all the way through. So just because this chapter is falling apart, then we got to look at the master who is writing the story, right? However that master is for you. The master that is writing the story is just in the middle of a chapter with you. It's just that simple, right? And when we look at it, we may get into the position that we don't want to make permanent decisions from temporary chapters, right? Because the author is not finished with us. That's the simplest way I can do it. Here's what I want you to think about. If you're the author, okay, and I know we've heard this, you're writing a new chapter. This is what I share with everybody. Hey, happy birthday. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I believe in birthday to birthday resolutions because that's when I hit the ground. There's a reason that I was born on the 7th of May. There was a reason that it happened to be that day of the week. There was a reason. So when I get to May 7th, every May 7th every year, my whole time is not just celebrating because that's what I have family and stuff and enjoy that. But my private time and quiet time is how did that year look? How does the new year look? Which direction are you going? Not what am I going to do, the resolution thing. How did I do? How did I really do? And what do I want to do now? And so when I send it to somebody, I'll say, hey, happy birthday. Hope everything goes great. New chapter to write. Write a good one. Every day is that. Every day you got to look at it, not necessarily as a chapter, but a page within that chapter. And you've read books, I know you have, where you've got a chapter that might be 2-3 pages long and others that might be 20-30 pages long. And you just have, there's a chapter that is real quick, just got to get this point across, and then it moves you into the next one. Oh, okay, I've just got to get this part done, and then I move into the next one, versus saying to yourself, oh my God, I knew this was going to happen. Oh, here we go again. Oh, it's just me. Every time I do that, see, nothing ever works when I try it. Oh, I always mess this stuff up. Man, I'm getting too old. I mean, here I am, 65, right? And I'm just building out another business. And I keep thinking, yeah, but Colonel Sanders, when he started KFC, was older than I was or am, right? And he just got going. The whole thing is it's we've got to be so careful. Last week I talked about Bruce Lee. We've got to be so careful about what we say to ourselves, the observations we make. When we're going through this storm, it's a storm. It is not the end of the world. And I promise you this, if it is the end of the world, well, great, then your book's over. It's that simple, right? If you get into it and this storm happens to be the last storm that you get to open your eyes, well, okay. Well, there's a new adventure happening where that is on the other side. But if it's not, it's just a storm. It's just a storm. I have been in some crazy storms where off the end of the wings that I've watched lightning crack, that I just was so grateful that it never hit the plane. And I know there's things that are built in that kind of avoid that. But man, right in the middle of those, and you're coming through that, and it's just, pilot to bombardier. It is just, you're going down this thing, but guess what? You come out. That pilot figures out some calm air, right? And I know I'll watch Mark's head shake on this. There are so many flights, the pilot will say, guys, it's going to be rough for another 45 minutes. I'm going to have the flight attendants stay in their seats. I've been on flights that's like, guys, I don't know in the next 2 hours if we'll ever get calm air. And you're sitting there going, I got some stupid mindless game playing or movies on or something, and you're just rocking with it. Well, maybe that's life. Maybe you're in one of these situations that the author of your life is taking you through some rocky times. Okay. Okay. Guess what? It's just a chapter, because at the end of the two hours on that flight that I was on, the end of the 2 hours, guess what? We came out of that, we lowered down, we landed on the ground, gave thanks that we landed on the ground, and went, okay, that flight's over. And that's the operating system. That's the operating system inside. If you're not having a good time in this life, your operating system is glitching somewhere, right? You look at a software program on your computer, you don't see the software, but it runs. It runs. Man, I can pull up chat. I can pull up all that kind of stuff. I don't need to know where it is. They talk about all these data banks being built. I don't care. I just know that I turn my computer on and it goes. And if it doesn't, then maybe it's time to get a new computer. Yes, yes, yes. There are operating errors, operator errors, right? And that's me. I know when I'm operating wrong because I just can't get a computer. That doesn't mean the software is wrong. That means I'm asking incorrect questions for what that operating system is doing. Right? So I send people files all the time from my Mac, and they'll come back and say, I can't open this because they're on PC. There's absolutely nothing wrong with either one of those operating systems. They just don't communicate, but there's nothing wrong with them. So that's what you got to start looking at is maybe the operating system I'm playing with right now is Mac, and I'm trying to upload a PC version, vice versa. Maybe what you got to do is just stop and say, well, what do I want? I love Mac. Remember way back, the graphic artist who was doing my books, my manuals, and so forth. He was on Mac because at that time, it was the best software program to use for graphic artists and graphic artwork and formatting. And so I would build it on PC, and then I'd have to export it a certain way to send it to him so that he could import it a certain way to function better on his Mac. And finally, I went to him and I said, Bill, this is a lot of work. And he laughed. I said, why don't you teach me how to use a Mac, and then we'll be in communication. Now, since that is just one of those, once you go Mac, you don't go back, they say, right? Concept. And so I've just been on Mac. My wife's on PC. Okay, that's totally cool. It's not a big deal. What happens is I can move through my life better on my business life on a Mac. So take that into your operating system. What operating system is in harmony with you? If you don't like the one you're working on, get yourself a different operating system. That's why I started the Aloha Operating System. I had started teasing it. CC is one that was part of that test that I did a few years ago, and I started teasing it. And then behind the scenes, just building and building and building. And it's taken me a couple of years to put all of my years of seminar and so forth stuff together in history. But it finally came down to the Aloha Operating System, and simply I love the word aloha because it is the meaning of life, is the breath of life. Right? Aloha is breathing life, and to me that just works. And plus Hawaii is amazing. But that's why I just came into that Aloha Operating System, that once you start understanding this at a deeper level for you, outside doesn't matter anymore. Outside doesn't matter. And you're going to find more and more peace, inner peace. But I'm going to promise you this, and this is one thing I want you to be careful with. The energies want to know how real you are, how dedicated, how serious you are. And I was taught this metaphor, and I'm going to share this. I guess it's not a metaphor, but I was given this example, and I'll share it with you. Is when you start into something, all of the energies are going to get in front of you and hold you and push you and keep you from moving because they want to see how serious you are. And most of us, because of our operating system, we will back off. Oh, it ain't coming. So I'm going to go do something else. And it moves a good little bit and then we start hitting the resistance. What the truth is if you stay in harmony with yourself and you start hitting that resistance, you get truer and truer. And then all of a sudden, the energies start to realize how serious you are, and it opens up. And then it gets behind you. And then those energies and everything else pushes you. So much so, you can't stop it even if you wanted to, because the energies are now understanding you. You're in harmony. And that's the whole thing about the Aloha Operating System, is to get you to break out, to get you to understand that whatever path you're on, if it is the way you want to go, then be serious about it and push through. Get through that, because it's just on the other side. It's just on the other side that they start pushing you. And I'll end it with this. I was listening to a CEO talk about a story with Will Smith, and a bunch of friends with Will Smith said, "Hey, let's go skydive." Oh yeah, it was all great. Da, 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 da. Then they started filling out paperwork and signing the waivers. And Will Smith was like, "No, guys, I was just kidding. You seriously want to do this?" They're like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, now come on, man. It'll be good. It'll be good." And on the side, Will would say, "Man, just absolutely frightened, just frightened." Boom. Then they take off. They meet that morning. They take off. They go down to the the runways and so forth. And he's like, "No, seriously, guys, seriously, I'm not interested. I really don't want this." And like, "Come on, it'll be good." No, no, no. And then all of a sudden he's linked up with a professional jumper, right? He's tied in with the instructor, the professional jumper. And they're like, "Guys, I really don't want it." Now they're flying. He's like, "I was so sick. I wanted to throw up. I am not, just absolutely frightened." Opened up the side door, and he goes, "Now I'm just ready to soil my jeans and everything else. So afraid, so afraid." And they went, "Okay, Will, we're going to jump on three. Ready? One." And he jumped. Going down, he goes, "I got away from the plane going down." He goes, "One of the most thrilling things I've ever done." We land. They said, "How was it?" And he goes, "That was the greatest thing. And what I realized is just on the other side of fear was the excitement, was the excitement." So you got to look at it, guys, just on the other side of the push, just on the other side with a true operating system, just on the other side is the full push. It's the full push, right? They call them algorithms in the social media world. You hit that button just long enough and the algorithm takes up, right? I shared a little bit with Patty the other day, 1, 5, 72, on and on and on. Business starts to roll. Those were sales that she was having, right? Business starts to roll and now it moves forward. Is it always going to grow? No, but it's always going to move. So here's what I want you to think about. Okay. Just introduce the idea to think back. And where I'm going with this in the whole operating system is I'm using the word paced, PACED, paced. So you got to pace yourself. Pace stands for this: pause, acknowledge, clarify, execute, decide again. Pause, acknowledge, clarify, execute, decide again. Pace yourself. Notice something. Notice something on this. None of these steps say, how do you avoid that? Do I avoid that? It simply says, pause for a minute. Acknowledge that it's happening, right? Then what you've got to do is you get down the last one, right? Clarify all of your vision. Then you execute. But the execution might be in a different direction. So that's where the decide comes in, right? So you're not gonna see it all. You're not gonna see it all. But tonight I simply wanted you to see that there's a better response in being your own lighthouse than there is trying to mimic somebody else's lighthouse. Because the storms are going to hit, the setbacks are going to hit, the drifting, any of that kind of stuff is going to happen. Right? All that stuff's going to come together, and it's going to hit you hard. So write the setback you have that you're going, and then underneath that setback that you're going through, write down this phrase, this question: what happened? Then go back to paste. This is what I'm going through. Then underneath that, write what happened. These are the things that happened. Then go back to pause, acknowledge, clarify, execute. You go through all of that, right? Because in the whole thing, as you go down, you're going to ask the next question: what one thing or one step can I make right now this week that's going to move me past this? Not 10, not 50, not what's one thing? One thing. Because now what you're doing is over week to week to week, you're building a person. You're putting some things together that you don't even know you're putting together. And you're becoming this new author, this new chapter that when you're viewing it, you get to write different. You get to live different. You get to act different. You get to hear things that you never did. Previous call to this one, I was on with my good friends, Lock, Stock, and Barrel, and some things hit me and just opened up my thoughts. It's like, dude, we got to get this done to get this done, which then allowed me to, I'm going to talk to some people differently, but it's because I'm operating from a different level now. And it's that calm authority, right? Not pretending life is easy, but understanding, okay, we get through this, right? I remember the comment from Matthew McConaughey, this too shall pass. Well, pass what? And I always laughed at that when he said it. It's like, this too shall pass. I hear it all the time. Well, pass what? I don't have any reflection. That's what the acknowledgement and clarification is in that word, right? It's because one side, not knowing, is creating fear. The other side is, oh, this is the game plan. It doesn't mean it went away. Storm still hits. The divorce may still happen. Your finances may go into the toilet. You may wake up and an empty bank account, which I've done several times in my career. But what I've realized now it wasn't an event. Excuse me, it wasn't just an event. It wasn't my identity. When it happened way back, it became my identity. Now I look at it and went, shoot, I know how to make money. Money's easy. Because money is just a service. It's just a value you do, and people think that it's a great value, so they pay you. Right? So that's where you start looking. But it took me several times trying to be somebody else's lighthouse before I realized I needed to be my own. So with that, guys, take that note, take that step this week, okay? It's the tiny, tiny decisions that make the massive changes, not the massive changes all the time, okay? So I will see you guys next Monday. Yep, next Monday. I was supposed to be in Richmond. Yeah. So I'll be on next Monday. If this moved you see anybody else that can participate, please do it. Our YouTube is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So please go out and subscribe to that. And I've got a couple of really cool interviews coming up that'll be on the podcast and the YouTube. A gentleman, I just got his book today. It is The Drift Principle and how to stay in unstable conditions. So that'll be fun going through. Guys, thank you so much for being here and everything else. I love you, and I will see you guys next week.